All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises to the Heavenly Father and His only begotten Son, Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakadash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and peace, love, and salutation to all you occupants pushing this truth and true sincerity. This is Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe coming quickly. Now we know the second woe is the Second World War between 1938 and 1945. And now we're on the verge of the Third World War. All right. If you're in the right mind frame and you're seeking the God of Israel, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, in truth and sincerity, because you got these other Israelite camps, they got their folly. They always got to make some noise around the time of the Passover, which their Passovers is full of folly. All right. But us in the know-how, we know what's going down. You got a lot of distractions out here. You got Nero 47 trying to portray himself as a Messiah, and that goes into Job 9 and 24. All right, well, I'm gonna get that right quick. This is Ecclesiastes 8 and 11. Because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. That's not the right one. Excuse me. Ecclesiastes 8 and 5. Whoso keepeth the commandments shall feel no evil thing, and a wise man's heart discerneth both time and judgment. So, yeah, now is not the time, to be fooling around. You got to take this truth seriously. And you see the great majority of our people, man, they're not taking heed to this word. They don't have discernment when it comes to time and judgment, because we're in the time of judgment. All right. And our people don't seem to know what time it is. Like I said, all these distractions that's going on. You got the NBA playoffs that's coming up. For you Jakes that like the NHL, you got the NHL playoffs. The weather's warming up. People are starting to go into these outdoor events. People are outside. That's when all the scoffers want to come out. Where were you scoffers at 4 months ago? All right, when it was pretty cold. But anyways, we're in a time of great judgment, and you got to know what time you're in these last days of Esau-Edom system. So I'm going to get this article. I found it on Times of Islamabad and also on End Time Headlines. And it says, let me close this out. Erdogan, who's the president of Turkey, threatens the Amalekites with invasion over continued Iran-Lebanon attacks. Now this is from the 13th, yesterday. All right, April 13th, 2026, the year of apostates, agents, and sellouts, and also the year of Jacob's trouble. There's Erdogan right there. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has issued a direct and unprecedented threat to the state of Israel. All right, those small hats over there, warning of potential military intervention if strikes on Iran and Lebanon do not cease immediately. In a fiery speech on April 12th, Erdogan declared that any strike on Lebanon or Iran will be treated as an attack on Turkey itself. He added that Turkey would show Israel its place had Pakistan not been mediating the ongoing war between the United States and Iran. Erdogan drew explicit parallels to past Turkish operations, stating, just as he entered Libya and Karabakh, we entered Israel. Now, this is on the 13th. Now, today on the 14th, because you got to, like Apostle Har says, you miss one day, you miss a lot. Now, the United States was supposed to block the Strait of Hormuz, but then Iran has found a way how to counteract that attack. And then also, what the Elder Adama was going into in his past lesson last week, the U.S. got all the oil now. So guess who's going to be buying from the U.S.? These other countries. All right? So there's a lot going on. The remarks came amid escalating regional tensions following U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran earlier this year, which Turkish officials described as unlawful war. Regional media, including SAMA TV and Israeli outlet Israel Hayom, reported the statements in fuel citing Arab media sources for authentication. Internationally, coverage has been limited, but the claims have spread rapidly through verified Turkish political channels. Erdogan accused Israeli Prime Minister Bibi of being blinded by blood and hatred. Well, of course, he's an Amalekite. He's Esau's grandson. I mean, we know what Esau's known for. He has the blessing of the sword, so of course he is. He pointed to the deletions of hundreds of innocent Lebanese civilians by the small hats on the very day of a supposed ceasefire. Well, that's how Esau get down. Let's get this preset, man. What is that? Psalms 55. They talk about a ceasefire. They're not these devils, man. They know deep down inside they got a short period of time. Ain't gonna be no ceasefire. Ain't gonna be no peace in the Middle East. All right. That's just a statement that's been thrown around probably since they got over there in 1948. There's no peace in the so-called Middle East, man. There will be peace when the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, Yahushua, makes his second return, and the 144,000 rule with him and King David in the kingdom of heaven. For right now, Esau is all about blood and deceitfulness, like it mentions in Psalms 5 and 6. Psalms 55 and 20, he hath put forth his hands against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. And you other nations should know that this man has broken covenants with the Native Americans and Seminole Indians, our people, the Israelites. So you Edomites should know better. But then again, all right, this ain't for you Edomites, man. It ain't for you to have wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. It's for you to have the blessing of the sword. All right. Psalms 55 and 21. The words of his mouth are smooth and butter. Oh yeah, we're gonna do a ceasefire. Next day, they still at it. But war was in his heart. That's his mind. The Department of Defense is called the Department of War now. The war is always in this man's heart. His words were softer than oil, yet were they drawn swords. He's all about carnage, man. Okay? And even these other nations starting to figure that out. Now, such actions, according to Erdogan, undermine all peace efforts and risk dragging the Middle East into a wider conflict. Now let's get this other precept. Like I said, it's not going to be no peace, man. Isaiah 48 and 22. Isaiah 48 and 22. There is no peace, saith the Lord, unto the wicked. Well, who's the wicked? Esau, Edom. All right, who's namely out there starting wars for the hell of it? Those Amalekites. All right. So going back to this article. Such actions, according to Erdogan, undermine all peace efforts and risk dragging the entire Middle East into a wider conflict. Well, the Bible prophesies the Valley of Jehoshaphat. All right, in Joel, the 3rd chapter. So there's nothing you can do against prophecy. Prophecy is going to keep on rolling. And the Most High, like I always say, he's the puppet master. And you world leaders are just the puppets. Hell, we're puppets as well. All right? We're being instructed on the right-hand side. These world leaders are being instructed on the left-hand side what to do. Because according to Job 33 and 15, when deep sleep falleth upon men, then the Lord seals the instructions. So the Lord sends the angels to seal the instructions for the next day. So, Lord willing, waking up on the 15th, we'll see what's going on. All right, we'll see what's going on in the so-called Middle East once again with this whole conflict in Iran and what these other countries going to do. But we know, all right, the Most High is bound by his word, so everything that he says is going to come to fruition. All right, he's not a man that he shall lie. So continuing on, it says, Lebanon has also seen approximately 1 million people displaced due to repeated Israeli strikes in recent months. The humanitarian toll in Iran includes civilian infrastructure damage from I'm reading too fast, I'm a little excited. Damage from earlier United States-Israeli operations that killed dozens and imposed massive economic burdens across the region. All right. So that's it on that. All right. Let's go to this one, the end time headlines. All right. From the 12th, Erdogan is now threatening to invade Iran. All right. So we're on the verge of World War III. Now, was a point I wanted to get. Right here. I ain't eating my little finish. Yeah, it says according to Turkey State's Run and Anadolu Agency, the charges against Bibi, crimes against humanity, genocide, torture, and unlawful detention. Prosecutors are seeking combined prison sentences totaling more than 4,500 years. Let me get a preset, man. You know where I'm going to. All right, because that's not gonna happen on this side. All right, it's gonna happen on this side. Revelation 13, 9 and 10. That's what the other article in Islamic Body didn't say. Because they're trying to stack up these crimes against humanity on Bibi and his cronies. This is Revelation 13 and 9. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. That's talking about the other heathen nations, starting with Esau, Edom, and his grandson Amalek. So they're gonna have those 1,000 years where they're gonna be building up the kingdom of heaven for the Israelites, and after that 1,000 years, they won't be on the earth anymore. They'll be like a dream, like the scriptures say. It'll be no more need for Esau because there'll be no more war. That's how you can tell that those people over there are not the true people of God, because there's war going on all around them. Because they have the blessing of the sword. They're Esau, Edom, and his grandson is Amalek. Those people over there claiming our heritage. All right. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. So we just gotta be patient. Every day we waking up, we see this place circling the drain. We see Esau, Edom losing himself every single day. Is at this point it's hilarious, man. You see the black woman, she the Eve and the serpent are just losing it at all angles. Got these black women still out here swirling. All right, getting with the so-called white man. We told you this man was the devil. We told you he was a bloody and deceitful man, but you know Keisha. You know what I'm saying? So Eve and the serpent, man, they're just absolutely losing their mind. And this is really the last time. This is the last time Eve and the serpent are gonna have some type of say-so in the planet Earth. So y'all, both of y'all, max out your credit cards, go to Dubai, do what you gotta do, because your time is up. All right. You Edomites are going to slave in your other nations, and you women are gonna be subject. All right, under the Israelite man in the kingdom of heaven. All right. So both of y'all times is really up, man. And good. But I wanted to bring out one more point with Erdogan. Let's go to Ezekiel 38. This is just another installment of the third woe coming quickly. You know, we'll see what happens on the 15th. Lord willing, we can get up, you know, pray to Yahweh Shemel Shah, thank you for another day, and see prophecy unfold. All right. Now, Ezekiel 38 goes into Gog and Magog, which in this prophetic terms, Gog and Magog is the land of Russia. Verse 1, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him. Yeah, so we're supposed to prophesy even against, I call him Master P. You know, Vladimir Putin and his Russian Federation, his regime over there, all right, in Russia. Because they're Edomites as well. And that's how beautiful the Lord has it. He got Edomites going against Edomites. All right? All we got to do is sit here and prophesy, all right, and wait on the Lord. And say, thus saith the Lord power, behold, I am against thee, O God, the chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws. That's going into, let me just type it up. That's going into the Russian Federation turning back into this. The spirit of them turning back into the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, also known as the Soviet Union, was a transcontinental country that spanned much of Eurasia from 1922 until its dissolution in 1991, 69 years. All right, you have, I believe, Vladimir Lenin was the first installment, all right, of leaders of the Soviet Union, and the last was Mikhail Gorbachev. You know, the Edomite that had that stain on the top, that had that big birthmark on the top of his head. That was the end of the Soviet Union. But the Lord is putting that old USSR spirit back on the Russian Federation. That old, good old hate for the United States. All right. So let's go back to verse 38. Ezekiel 38 and verse 4. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth in all thy army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. All right, that goes into basically their military artillery. All right, and the ultimate weapon are those intercontinental ballistic missiles. All right, that's in the Bible. So Russia is going to be armed to the T. Okay, and guess what? Persia, which is Iran, Ethiopia is Ethiopia, Libya is Libya. Those countries are both in Africa. With them, all of them with shield and helmet. So Russia has been aiding these countries, and you can go to Wikipedia and type up relations between Russia and Iran, relations between Russia and Ethiopia, Russia and Libya, and guess what? Where Erdogan is at is Gomer, which is Turkey. Gomer and all his bands, the House of Togomar of the North Quarters, and all his bands and many people with thee. All right. Verse 7. Be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is basically like the big homie on the block when it comes to these countries, Persia, Ethiopia, Libya. All right. Giving them weapons, money, everything that's geared up for war, because we're in a time of war. But most Americans, like I said, they had this playoff game. They got the playoffs, and people just like to go to these basketball games and have a good time, drink some beers, get drunk, dance. They're a bunch of folly. When a lot of these people are just crashing out, man. All right, all these people want to do is have fun because they don't want to. They don't want to accept reality. Especially our people, the so-called blacks, Hispanics, and Native Americans, they cannot accept reality. They think this place is going to be here forever. But going back to Gomer, all right, you see Turkey, all right, making these statements. Let me go back to this one. Turkey making these statements, all right, that Erdogan is now threatening to invade Israel, So, hey, through the spirit, we'll just keep an eye on it. So, Lord willing, this lesson is edifying. I'm going to say shalom. You're going to start to see, like I said, Turkey, which let me type this up. All right, is just a basic question. All right, Turkey and NATO. Yes, Turkey has been a member of NATO since February 18th, 1952. And guess who's part of NATO? All right, Babylon the Great, the United States. So you're going to see, prophetic-wise, you're going to start to see Turkey get away and start to link them, get away from these factions and start linking up with Russia because it's prophetic. All right, so, hey, Lord, when I was edifying, and I'm going to say shalom.